الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله ذي الملك والملكوت ذي العزة والجبروت. الحمد لله حي قيوم لا ينام، عزيز لا يضام، قهار لا يرام. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. يقول الباري سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and they not accept on the state of Islam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, bestow upon us the gift to die on the state of Islam. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Amma ba'd, the success of the believer starts with element that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined in His book, and He defined in the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the first step, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Successful are the believers, those who are humble in their prayer, who gain and have the focus during their prayer. Now, we have mentioned about such a thing, alhamdulillah, in the previous khutbah, and mainly to emphasize on the fact, if we truly want to gain piety, we'll find that gaining the piety only comes through performing a genuine prayer. And the genuine prayer will be possible only to have its soul in it, which is the khushu', is to be the mindfulness, the focus, and to be humbly submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, we have mentioned last time, very important point, that we cannot have the khushu' while we standing to the prayer, but the true khushu' you only gain it when someone, he had the khushu' to be governing all one's aspect of life. So it said, in the first step towards success is al-khushu', as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. So that's a fact. Who are the successful? The first step is to have the khushu' into the salah. Now, in continuing in the same reflection, to continue and get to the point, because how someone can gain the khushu'. Now, what will prevent a person to have the khushu' into the salah? The fact that he does not perform or does not perform the khushu' outside the salah. Okay? So someone cannot have the khushu' in the salah because he does not have khushu' outside the salah. Now, how to develop the khushu' outside the salah? When we say khushu', what it means to khushu' outside the salah? To be humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be mindful to Allah, to trust in Allah, to rely on Allah, to seek guidance from Allah, to seek help with Allah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to support you, to help you, to get you closer to Him. All of this is happening outside of the salah. So when you come to the prayer and you say Allahu Akbar, you're already in a state of khushu'. You will not fight to bring the khushu' or fight to eradicate and push away all those images that comes into your heart, because you're already in the khushu'. And what will prevent a person to have such a khushu' in their life? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the khushu', as we're going to explain, is not in the salah. The khushu' need to touch every aspect of the life of a person, which is need them to be kind of the character or what define one's soul. When someone is humble with every aspect in his life. He's not humble only with Allah and arrogant with people, or subhanallah boasting with others and so on. So this need to be an inherent character that define the believer. That's a fact. Now, the question is, as continuing into the same line of thinking, what is the thing that is preventing us to have the khushu' in our life? Why we are not always mindful of Allah, seeking His repentance, seeking His guidance? Then the salah becomes a tool to help us get close to Allah, a refuge, a solace where we find our tranquility. So that the salah will be providing for us all this energy, all this power, all this strength. Now we do the salat as a duty to get rid of it and to say to Allah, I did what you have obligated me, and that's not the true salat. That salat is ineffective and most likely will not be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not the point that we are talking about here, but the point is here, what prevents us from having this state of humbleness and mindfulness into our life? The reason is very simple, because most of us are following assumption. And the assumption, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it, dhann, and whatever the soul desire. So the desire of the soul have us to follow assumption. So the assumption, not because the truth is not clear, nor also because there is no strong evidence to help us say, oh, this is not, I should not follow something that is, I'm not sure of it. The assumption, dear brother, respected sister, is we follow it to justify the following of the desire that we like. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال إِن يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَمَا تَهْوَى الْأَنفُسِ. They only follow assumption. And whatever the soul desire, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ مِنْ رَبِّهِمُ الْهُدَى. Indeed, guidance had came to them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هَلْ أَمْ لِلْإِنسَانِ مَا تَمَنَّى. Is then for the human being all what he wishes or she wishes to have, then know that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala belong the hereafter and the beginning, which is the beginning of the creation and this world. أَمْ لِلْإِنسَانِ مَا تَمَنَّى فَلِلَّهِ الْآخِرَةُ وَالْأُولَى. Now, here, dear brother, respected sister, this is very important point, because we live into the society and we are there to the Islamic faith, alhamdulillah, with the help and the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but our soul might not be connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because we let our soul to fulfill what it desires. When what it desires, not necessarily, and actually more often, or if it's not always, it's conflicting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intent in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guidance. So when you see people making names to develop system or to name gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's not the God of stone who dictate on them to exist, or is not those dreams of a person who dictate of them to have them. It is the desire of the soul. Therefore, what is dangerous and threatening in this aspect is when someone following his wishes or her wishes, it is these wishes which is going to define their belief, is going to define their worldview. It becomes like looking to this life as so juicy, as so great. Looking at, subhanallah, death is not gonna to come. Looking at the system you live in, everything, so it becomes like even the concept of beauty, the concept of happiness, the concept of what is joyful, it is becomes, subhanallah, defined by this creed that we live in. And awkwardly, the system around us is not making any effort to help to have people follow them. So if you see, for example, you say, why the majority of the people are there to this system of the society? One of them, subhanallah, consumerism make them to be slaves. All of this make them, subhanallah, to follow like blindly. It's normal. They do not do anything great or, subhanallah, as a wisdom, or they dictate on people. It is the nature of the people to follow their desire. So, for example, you see the commercial, what they target your weak emotion. They target, you think that you already love inside. So they trigger things inside you. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ الْمُقَنطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ وَالْخَيْلِ الْمُسَوَّمَةِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ وَالْحَرْثِ. The meaning of this ayah, made beautified for the heart of the people, made appealing to the heart of the people, the love of the desire. When we're talking about spouses and women and children and piled up, gold and silver and fine horses, all of that, transportation is something that we love, we naturally love. Now, the person, when he's seeking such a thing without the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because naturally, if you love them, it comes the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to regulate them, so it keeps you in a moderate way, to not be in extreme in any way. Because when someone does not have this guidance, it will become what will be guiding is this desire, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَمْ لِلْإِنسَانِ مَا تَمَنَّى. So, when someone follows the wishes of his own desire to fulfill them and everything, he's building a new aqidah, new creed that, as we have said, define every concept of happiness, of joy, how to view this life, how to view the hereafter. Hereafter becomes something that we don't even think about it. So here, subhanallah, then the society we live in, it's helping, what it's doing is fueling the fire of the desire that we already have in ourselves. So it's not making something new. It's like someone is going downhill, and in downhill make it like so slippery so he's getting faster. That's what the system is doing for the people, for us. But to go uphill where you're going to regulate this desire based on the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's where the difficulty will come. Therefore, it is impossible for us to have khushu'. Why? Because we're already adhering to such a thing, and letting ourselves, subhanAllah, following its own whims is like we're going downhill at a very fast speed. And this very fast speed going downhill is taking us to the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How then to bring ourselves up, to save ourselves, and to bring the khushu', which is, as we have said, the first step in the success, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. The first thing, dear brother, respected sister, we have to understand something, that the following of the desire, the following of the whims, make a person non-believers. Because the Prophet ﷺ قال لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به. A person will not be a believer till he make his desire and his whims to be submitted to that which I have sent with. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, who the people of paradise? قال سبحان الله وأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى, the one who fears the standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and forbid the self to follow their whims. Now, 3 steps, dear brother, respected sister, who help us really to gain this khushu'. And this khushu' not in the salah, the khushu' into your life, this mindfulness, who's going to be, subhanAllah, like an umbrella, like, subhanAllah, a spirit into all your life, then is going to be also present in your prayer. Many people, they read about the khushu' and the salah, and it is really far from being implemented and far from even helping, because it helps people for a few days, but it evaporates. Why? Because it's not the right solution. The only solution, it is from the guidance of the Quran and the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ. The first element, or the first step, is to lend an attentive ear, and an ear that, subhanAllah, seeking with conscious ear to this ayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hadid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing to the believer and to all of us, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. It's not the time yet, or had not come the time for the believer to humble themselves, for the heart of the believer to be humbly submissive to the remembrance of Allah and to the truth that has been revealed to them. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud saying that this ayah was revealed 4 years just after we accepted Islam, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent his prophet. So it's a reminder for us, ask yourself, it's not time to just humble yourself, to be mindful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is asking you, Allah is calling you, and you say, why? I'm not humble, I'm not khasha. No, you're not. Just look at yourself. So between following the assumption, the dhann, which the dhann, following it to just justify the desire that we want. We want this and we want this and want this. How to make it justify is to follow assumption. You say, oh, it's okay, the sheikh so-and-so, he said it. You know who's the sheikh? Did you read about him? Maybe it's even the name being fabricated on the internet to tell you that, you know, that you can do this thing. So in fact, you want to do it despite if a sheikh tell you or not. He said, but in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said such a thing, and you make the interpretation to just justify your whims. Or if someone give you a hadith, he said, oh, that hadith is da'if, we should not be even applying it because it's thus considered as a hukum. And the person becomes like, you know, a scholar of hadith and a scholar of fiqh and a scholar of tafsir just to justify their own desires. And this is, subhanAllah, the point that we're talking about. So between following the assumption and fulfilling what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you to, which is, it's not the time to humble yourself, it's not the time to be mindful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Between these 2 points, to really help yourself, you know, desert this assumption, desert these wishes, and to get into the khushu' to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is one crucial point. This crucial point is to really revive in you, to really blow into you the life or the soul of the true world vision of the divine. So what does it mean when I say divine world vision? The divine world vision is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you is going to happen. Are you following it in a theoretical way or in a practical way? Tomorrow you might die. Have you think about it? This is what Allah is telling you. The world outside is telling you, just, enjoy life. The desert does not exist. It's a theory. It's like, subhanAllah, something like we should not even think about or talk about. Tomorrow, you might not be dying tomorrow. Have you think about it? Did you think, will you be thinking, or are you conscious that you have two angels writing everything? How do you believe in such a thing? It's okay? You do not care? Don't you believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knowing, the all-powerful? Don't you believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the provider? So why you are scared? Why you are, subhanAllah, kneeling to everybody else to seek, your provision when your provision in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Don't you believe that tomorrow you're going to be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He's going to ask you without translator? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who's going to ask you about everything you have done in this life. And your book will not miss anything. And Allah told us in Surah Al-Kahf, they said, مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا. Why this book is not missing anything, small or big, but it is recorded in it. This is our belief. So this is what should be our worldview. This is how we need to see life. This is how we need to view our life. Then when you think about this thing, you said, are you not caring? Therefore here the khushu' becomes a necessity to be mindful of such a thing, because tomorrow you might die. If you continue following your wishes and death can take you, where is your iman? The iman didn't help you at all. The iman actually then it didn't exist. It's the theoretical iman. That's why when we listen to this ayah in Surah Al-Hadid that has been revealed to the companion Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim just 4 years after the becoming or the advent of Islam, it will be for us as a necessity to help ourselves revive that view. You might die tomorrow, what you're going to do? When you do the next prayer, it might be the last prayer. So this is the view that we need to, subhanAllah, put in ourselves and make it the view that we act upon it, just as we believe in it in an empty way, superficial way, and theoretical way. This is what, subhanAllah, the first element. The second element is to have a position with yourself, an inner conversation with sincerity and with truthfulness. You seek always, to be new with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But are you truly saying the truth? Are you being frank to yourself? Are you being transparent to yourself? Look at your dreams, as we have mentioned in the previous khutbah. Your dream is defined whether you truly seeking the pleasure of Allah or not. Now, there's very beautiful word that has been said by Ibn Ata al-Sakandari in his wisdom. And this is really help us to question ourselves, by following what he said. رحمه الله تعالى. قال كيف يشرق قلب وصور الأكوان منطبعة في مرآتي. How can a heart will shine when all the picture of these things around us is printed into our heart? It's like someone told me, one of the scholars said, you come to the prayer and you have an album of pictures. So as soon as you say Allahu Akbar, what is going to come? The picture that you already have, or that you wish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be present in your heart. So the question is, and it's a beautiful question, a question in Korea is like, how come you seeking for your heart to shine with the light of the guidance, and all what you have in heart, it is printed all with the things, the likes that you have, and subhanAllah, someone is always on the phone, that what give you joy, that what is subhanAllah entertaining you. So this is the shahawat. So the more you're watching things and you're more like you're standing at your phone, the more you're accumulating the printing of pictures of this world into your heart. So how do you wish and you aspire for the light to be shining in your heart? Then he said, كيف يرتحل أو يرجو أن يرتحل إلى الله وهو مكبل في شهواته. How can person travel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he's shackled into his desires? Because subhanAllah, the desires make you like subhanAllah to be a servant to this desire. So if you are enchained to Allah, how can you enchain to your desire? How can you travel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's impossible. So you see here, the hikam of Ibn Ata give us a sense of absurdity on how we are living our life. We want to our heart to shine, mashallah, with light. But listen, when you say Allahu Akbar, how many pictures you have in your heart? From where did picture they came? Is the shaitan put them there? No, the shaitan didn't put them there. The shaitan, in fact, he will be like so innocent. He said, I didn't have any authority over you, except I invited you and you answered the invitation. So he invited you to fulfill your desire, and he's there. He's there just to push you in a way with his cunning and so on. Now, if we have such a thing, knowing such a thing, this is going to inherit in our heart haya, modesty, and feel shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the next saying that he said, rahimahullah ta'ala, how can someone enter to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he still didn't purify himself from the impurities? قال كيف يدخل حضرة الله أو يطمع أن يدخل حضرة الله ولم يتطهر من جنابة غفلاته. And you didn't cleanse yourself from the impurity of your heedlessness. So these are facts, dear brother, respected sister, to have an inner conversation and to be true to yourself. And you're going to look, and then this is going to help you to see your shortcoming. Those pictures that come to you in the prayer, not because, the shaitan put them there, not because it's a process, it is a journey of life that is far from the true guidance. It's a journey that you help or you allow those pictures to be printed into your heart. So how can you be able to have khushu' when you didn't make any serious step to erase this picture from your heart? How can you be closer to Allah when you didn't make any step to break the chain of the desire that holding you down? How can you be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you didn't purify yourself from your heedlessness and there is no mindfulness in whatsoever into your life? This is action when you have this inner conversation of truthfulness with yourself. This is going to help you to have into your heart the haya, and then you ask Ya Allah, begging Him, Ya Allah, help me to be guided. The third aspect, which is very important, you put them together, this is going to give you the seed of the true khushu' into your life. The third one is the submission to Allah. But it's not about the absolute submission, it's the way how you submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The way you submit to Allah, there is two ways. The first you are in a situation of difficulty, a situation of ease. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this person to be rich, Allah make this person to be poor. Now, in whatever situation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you in, what you will be seeking? Are you seeking to fulfill the intent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in you, or you seeking for Allah to fulfill your own intent? Two big things. Because what the difference between them? If you are in a situation of difficulty, you embrace that situation because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the one who decreed for you. Then you turn to Allah, Ya Allah, what do you want me to do in this situation? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Be patient. When you fulfill Allah's intent in what He put you in that situation, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give you the blessing, Allah is going to give you the rahmah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the way out. أُولَئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ وَأُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. But if you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill what you want, you don't ask Allah, what should I do? But you ask Allah, Ya Allah, do this for me. I want this. I want to move away from this. I want to do this. So if this is here, you are making Allah to serve you. And this is a reality. So what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned away from you and have you to be, subhanallah, trusting or to relying on yourself. And here the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ya Allah, do not make me to rely on myself even the blink of the eye. So the two difference between the type of the submission, the first one, if you fulfill the intent of Allah in whatever situation you are in, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be your wakil, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be your hasib. Allah is going to be disposer of all your affairs subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of you. On the other hand, if you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to serve you, then you're going to be relying on yourself, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be away from you. And here the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to say, Allahumma ya arhamar rahimin, la takinni li nafsi tarfata ayn. La takinni li nafsi. Don't let me, ya Allah, to be relying on myself, even the blink of the eye. وَأَصْلَحْ لِي شَأْنِي كُلَّهُ. These three elements, these three steps, is going to build and plant the seed of humility and fear in Allah. And those are the two elements that empower or like build and develop the khushu'. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it in many times in the Quran, said it about Zakaria and his wife and Yahya. قالوا كانوا يدعوننا رغبا ورهبا. They used to call upon us in رغب and hoping, and subhanallah wishing, ورهبا in fear, وكانوا لنا خاشعين, and they were humble to us. You see, the khushu' is the result of the tadarra and the khawf. And this is here are the elements only can be gained with the three elements that we have mentioned. The last one is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قال واذكر ربك في نفسك تضرعا وخيفة ودون الجهر من القول بالغدو والآصال ولا تكن من الغافلين. He said, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with humility and with fear, without being loud. And He said, this is you do it, be in the morning and in the evening, and do not be from the heedless. And this is a comprehensive ayah who guides us to the meaning of the true khushu', to be humbly submissive to Allah and mindful always. And this is how you find the beauty of the prayer, by becoming your solace, by you becoming your refuge, by you becoming the engine that gives you the power and the strength of perseverance and endurance, and increasing your taqwa. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على النبي المصطفى أما بعد. In whatever situation you will be, to gain the khushu', to be honored, to be supported by Allah, to be helped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then seek to fulfill the intent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in what He put you in. If you are in ease, then let your tongue to be uttering the gratefulness and the thanks and the hamd of Allah. If you are in difficulty, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put in you patience. And this is how you hold fast to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayyub alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him in a state of ease for long years. But when he went through the difficulties, he didn't complain. He only was seeking, Ya Allah, just your remembrance for me, it will be the peak, will be my solace, will be my felicity. And you see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did with Ayyub. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as great example for us in Al-Hudaybiyah, he said, I will never disobey Allah. When all the companions except Abu Bakr, they were against him and against his opinion. قال, I will never obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him in a situation, and this situation, he going to see or to fulfill the obedience of Allah. That's what it needed in that situation. Not to need to bring something from your mind or ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, compel on Allah to serve you or serve your whims. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the conquest and the fath. Therefore, our life depends on how mindful you are. And how mindful you are, really do not follow any assumption to justify your whims, but just hold fast to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and have this khushu' to really kind of being the umbrella into all your action, to be a spirit into your life. And you will see how the salat, it becomes so sweet. It's going to become the delight of your eye. It's going to become your refuge. It's going to become where you find your peace, where you find your tranquility. And then what will bring you the strength to back to the Word, to face the struggle of your life with the strength, with perseverance, and with a strong iman. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to have the khushu' in our life, and to bestow upon us the khushu' in the salah, and make our khushu' to be in every aspect of our life. Make, Ya Allah, the khushu' to increase our iman, to bring us tranquility in our heart, and to bring us solace in every aspect in our life. Ya Allah, give us the oneness in our spirit, and the oneness in our body, and the oneness in every aspect in our life. Ya Allah, help us to be the closest to you, Ya Rabbana, in way of we are truthful, and do not make us, Ya Allah, to trick ourselves and cheating ourselves by following our desire while we truly and sincerely want to be close to you. Ya Allah, help us to remove ourselves from our shortcoming to be the closest to you. اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا أجمعين وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم ارزقنا الخشوع في الحياة وفي الصلاة يا أرحم الراحمين ويا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم إخواننا في غزة، اللهم احفظهم بحفظك يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارفع عنهم الهم وابعد عنهم الكرب يا رب العالمين. اللهم آمن روعاتهم، اللهم اشف مرضاهم، اللهم تقبل قتلاهم عندك في الشهداء. اللهم أفرغ عليهم صبرا وثبت أقدامهم وانصرهم على المعتدين الظالمين، إنك على كل شيء قدير وبالإجابة جدير. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأقيموا الصلاة يرحمكم الله.